Okay, so I this is interesting. As a marketing person, why didn't you watch the commercials to figure out things around what you could do to better yourself as a marketing genius, guru, whatever? I'm just going to say marketing buzzwordy things a lot today because I think it's funny. Why didn't you watch the commercials as a
They,
marketing person?
I feel like over the past few years, it kind of killed the buzz of the excitement of that day because they'll release stuff early and try to make a big deal out of it, and then they're always available the next day or right away online. So I don't know. And the teams didn't really excite me. So I'm usually there just for the commercials. But
Yeah,
even those this year, I wasn't totally jazzed about it.
the Chicago Bears don't typically play in the last game of the year either, so I'm sure that has something to do with it. You didn't think that I would remember the team
Oh,
that you like.
I love them.
Yeah.
What was the stat, Zach? It was the lowest viewed Super Bowl since 2007, something like that.
Now, I heard the stat today was 97 million people watched it. I think that has, you have to think, and it had a huge share. So I think it did pretty well. I think sports in general are down for a plethora of different reasons. And then I think you can just put like COVID watch parties and lower that number too. So I thought it was actually fairly highly watched. I just heard some of these stats this morning. The NBA Finals Game 6, 5 million people watched it. So think about that. And the MLB final game, or the average of the MLB World Series, was like 9 or 10 million. So significantly higher. Obviously, I think that number is always significantly higher. I don't know what the breakdown is, but it is interesting. I felt like commercials and The Weeknd weren't as heavily promoted as maybe before. Or maybe I just stopped watching other things that would have promoted them before. But it's always an interesting day. It's my favorite day of the year because I don't know. I just love it. I think from the college days, but it is interesting. So halftime show you thought was good, commercial wise that you did see were good, or what are your, both of you guys, what are your overall thoughts on kind of the marketing angle of the Super Bowl?
I thought the show was good, the Weeknd's halftime show, and I thought it was more interesting afterward when I learned about some of the meanings of it, the masks and his like $1 billion coat that he wore that was 40 pounds that he had to practice while he wore it. Or practice wearing it for the whole event because it was so heavy. There was just more, which I feel like appealed more to like the artists than it did anyone that wanted to be entertained, because I saw mixed reviews on that. And the commercials, I feel like this whole past 12 months is just, they've been kind of downer. So not that we need to ignore
in these
everything that's going on,
unprecedented
but
times.
you know, like,
We didn't hear that in the Super Bowl, I don't think, though.
we're celebrating people, the medical people. I mean, I think everybody's doing that, and you want to do some normalcy, but you don't want to ignore what's going on. But I don't know where that line is drawn, because what was it, like Budweiser and some of them even pulled out and put some money to donate to front of the line workers rather than being in the Super Bowl, which I feel is kind of a weak PR stunt because they were still present there. I don't know. It was all, I don't know. I look at it very differently, I feel like, than other people.
It is as the anomaly guy, I think it's interesting to think about kind of what you just said, where it's they almost start doing, everyone starts doing the same thing in some aspect of it, right? So like at the beginning of COVID, March 20, April of 20, everyone was showing off their Brady Bunch screens. Where it's like, oh, look, I'm doing these calls and there's 9 of us on the call. And it's like, and yes, I know that the kind of view that people can see right now is sort of a Brady Bunch screen, but it's a different aspect. And it's like, if everyone's posting that thing, what happens is they become camouflaged. And when they become camouflaged, no one sees it. Or it becomes the same message over and over again, and no one's listening to that. And so I do think there is a lot of, there's probably a buzzword for what that is, but that's a problem for a business. Like you can't just be pushing the same style of thing over and over again and expect, especially when others are doing it too, and expect to see good results, because I think is there a word for that? Do you guys know? Where it's like too much of the same thing over and over, like a commercial fatigue. Overload. Yeah. Commercial fatigue. Yeah. What did you think about the show, Tim? Did you watch it?
Yeah, I did. Well, the thing that was interesting is, I mean, I'm not a huge Facebook person anymore. I have a lot of Facebook fatigue. That'll be the word of the show. But the interesting thing was there was not a lot of people talking about commercials. Like that whole buzz is kind of gone. And in terms of the most memorable commercial for me, I thought Tracy Morgan knocked it out of the park with Rocket Mortgage. That was good. The other takeaway, I guess, that I have is in terms of the halftime show. I mean, it is such a huge stage, and so people either love it or they hate it. And I think that it's time for them to rethink what a halftime show is, and maybe they have 4 different acts in 4 different parts of the field, and then they can bring diversity in that way. But I just think it's just a huge stage for one person to try to command, and it's might be time to rethink.
It's always interesting too when you have lovers and haters on something, and it's like, well, hold on, guys. Like, this dude is one of 55 people basically who's ever made the Super Bowl halftime show, which is actually fake news because they haven't always had halftime shows like that. At some point, it used to be like just like marching bands and stuff like that. And so, yes, I realized that like The Weeknd is one person, Aerosmith is played, and there's a bunch of other people that are groups, but you get my point. And so, like, good on him for being able to be big enough to be offered that opportunity to be something like that. And so, whether you dig it or you didn't dig it, like, you got to have mad respect for that.
Sure.
I was kind of hoping that the TikTok move would have come out and like people would have done that, because I feel like the Weeknd song got really
the Blinded by the Light song.
Yeah, I feel like there was a TikTok movement for that where like, 1 billion people got into that song and did some dance. I think Tim's family actually did it too. I didn't see him in the video, but like that would have been interesting, I think, to include that. I feel like it could have been an interesting way to engage with fans. But then also I think we have to think about, okay, what restrictions did they have because of COVID during this too that they couldn't do?
I was shocked they had so many people on the field, because usually it's like the fans or whoever are invited down there to wave around the lights.
It was like 80% of it was up, I guess, by the boat or something like that. And I was like, oh, well, maybe they just can't get on the field because they've been given a COVID restriction. And then he ends with that. And so it was interesting to see that.
And how they incorporated the masks.
Yeah. So tell me, so it's intriguing enough that people look deeper, which I think is great marketing when they wanted to see something about the mask and stuff like that. It wasn't just a halftime show. There was a story there. And if you felt the need, you could look deeper in that. Tell me a little bit more about it doesn't have to be about the mask, but just like how someone can incorporate people to search more from a marketing perspective.
Well, I think it's and we kind of use this tactic, I guess, the confusion. Like you do something and for whatever reason, and people go, why the hell did you do that? Or what does that mean? If they're curious about it, and then they go out on their own to find the answers. And I know The Weeknd did that, and I didn't know anything leading up to it, but then kind of heard people talking about it. But he made a scene at, I think, one of the recent award shows where he showed up and it looked like he was beat up or had surgery. And
yeah, that was the MTV one, I think.
Yeah, it's like a bigger message, but I didn't know any of that prior to this. And honestly, I thought they looked like they had underwear on their face. So I was like joking about that. But then reading into it, like, and I'm in those circles anyway on social media with the marketing people talking about it, but it was just interesting to go deeper. But I guess his fans already kind of probably know that. And like a guy I used to go to church with posted that he didn't really get it because it wasn't his genre and he wasn't the right age group. So I don't know if
how hard that
necessarily understands. But
that part is so hard to do, to find someone that everyone's going to like. That doesn't happen. I mean, think about like, one of my favorite performances of all time was Tom Petty. Right. Yeah. And he just played 4 songs or 5 songs. He just got on the stage. It was in Phoenix, I think. Just played a couple songs and that was it. And I'm sure he got a lot of crap.
That's why I think that if you had 4 smaller stages and you had some of these crossover hits, Florida Georgia Line with Nelly or whatever the case is, where you can bring in different genres, and then you can make 8 songs out of 4 different crossovers. Then you bring diversity to the table. Then and
more collaboration. And
exactly.
And this would have been like a great stage with everything that's gone on over the past year to really bring like the come together message.
Right, and I think they tried last year with Shakira and J-Lo, right?
Yeah.
Isn't Pharrell and I feel like Pharrell and The Weeknd have done something together. So I wondered when I first heard that The Weeknd was going to perform, I wondered if Pharrell would be a part of it, but
Yeah.
he wasn't. So, all right.